The best closing technique that I can teach salespeople is used at the beginning of the sales meeting with a prospective customer, not at the end like traditional closing methods. Now, I know right away when I say that, people go, oh, it's ABC, always be closing. Always be closing was started back in Dale Carnegie's day, back in the 1920s and 30s, Zig Ziglar's day, all these people who are no longer with us anymore, and it's outdated, and you should not be using that, okay? The idea is that I, as a salesperson, throw some softballs to my prospective customers, preloaded questions that they have to answer yes to. And if I can get them to answer 3 and 4 yeses, then it becomes much easier for them to say yes to me when I go to ask them for the sale. But the problem is that buyers see this coming. They become very defensive. They know what you're doing. They view this as manipulative. Salespeople have done this to them for years, and it doesn't work. And that's why I say it's outdated, okay? So you need new sales techniques, new closing techniques. Now, I say that, but at the same time, I'm against just a closing technique, right? Because if you have to push for the buyer at the end of the meeting to say yes to you, you didn't do a real good job of creating the value in their mindset and attaching that value, the pain that you're going to solve, the value that you're going to bring to the company by the product or service that you're offering to them. But when it comes to closing techniques, salespeople think that they can just figure out one technique that's going to close for them. And it's kind of like years ago, back in the 90s, when I taught martial arts. And when I taught martial arts, I had a class that met 3 times a week in the evenings. And inevitably, I would always, once a month or so, get somebody in off the street that wanted to come in. And they'd say, I don't want to go through all these forms, and I don't want to go through all this discipline. I just want you to teach me something that I can do that if somebody attacks me, some kind of self-defense move. And the problem with that is I could teach them something and take their money right then, but when they go out to the street and they get attacked by somebody, they don't have that in them, and they're not going to be able to use that technique that I taught them because they haven't rehearsed it, they haven't drilled it, they haven't practiced it. This is why sales training is so important as well. But the technique that we're talking about that's used at the beginning of a sales meeting, think about everything that can go wrong in a sales meeting, okay? And then we're going to address that in the beginning. We're going to get permission from the buyer. This is called the terms and conditions. You know, when you log onto a website or you use some kind of software for free or something like that, you agree to a certain terms and conditions that most times nobody ever reads or pays attention to anyway, right? Well, we're going to do that same kind of terms and conditions with the prospective buyer that we're meeting in order so that we can better help them. Remember, we're unassumptive. We know that our product or service is great for certain people. I don't know your business though. So that's why I'm here and I want to ask some questions, see? So what are the bombs that can go off during this meeting to derail it, right? Because the rule with a bomb, the best way to handle it is to diffuse it before it goes off, all right? So I want to diffuse that bomb before it goes off. And now maybe the bomb is something like, I get a lot of people, or a certain percentage of the people that I meet with, that 10 minutes into the presentation, they go, hey, Nick, this is great, but I've got to go. I've got some other things that I've got to do. Oh, geez, I wish I would have known that in the beginning, right? So I might say, Bob, I've set aside 30 minutes for this appointment today. How about you? Something like that, so that I can get him to say, yeah, 30 minutes is fine, or no, I've only got 20, or whatever it is. Let's address that now before it becomes an issue later. All right. So there's a whole bunch of things that we teach like this, but when it comes to closing, when you get to the end of a meeting with a prospect, what's the outcome? Now, there are really 3 outcomes that are very typical in most selling situations, especially in one-call close sales environments. And it is a yes. I get a yes from the prospect because they see the value that my product or service brings and what it'll do for them, and they're ready to buy. Every salesperson has people like that they meet with. It's a no. That's the second outcome. And I'm okay with that if it's an honest no. I'd rather get that up front than chasing this person over and over again. The third one is the most dangerous one, and that's a put-off. A put-off sounds like this from a prospective customer. At the end of the meeting, they say something like, I'll think it over, I'll get back to you, or maybe. A maybe think it over, I'll get back to you is a terrible place to be. Because if you track the people that tell you that, Yes, you get some of them. And again, we're not talking about the exceptions to the rules, but we're talking about the masses and what the averages are, because that's where you're going to be able to make the most income in your sales profession. But when you track that and you find out you went back 2 and 3 and 4 times and you tried to meet with this person, or you called them on the phone, you sent them a bunch of emails, the truth of the matter is that most times that prospective customer has already decided he's not going to buy from you or your company for whatever reason. He's got a relationship with an existing vendor. He doesn't like your company. Maybe there's something wrong with the name of your company or some in the past, or he heard from somebody else they got burned with your company before. It doesn't matter. They've already made that up in their mind after your appointment, but here's why they tell you, maybe think it over, I'll get back to you. We as human beings, and especially in our American business culture, are programmed to be polite. What did your mom say to you when you were growing up? If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, right? We all know that. It's part of our head trash, part of our programming. Buyers are doing that very same thing, because rather than say no, and that could be offensive, that could be negative, whatever, they would rather string you along and not give you a definitive no when they've already decided that. So they give you a maybe, think it over, I'll get back to you. You end up chasing them week after week, month after month, and you close so little of the people that were in that group. So the closing technique that I'm talking about, now this is part of a whole selling system, but in the beginning of the meeting, when I sit down and I say, Bob, thanks for inviting me in today. I'm really excited to learn more about your company. Now, we do great things for some of our customers, and they tell me that we solve these problems for them. I don't know your company though, and I don't know if that's applicable to you. So of course, you're going to have questions for me about my company. I'm going to have questions for you about your company. Is that okay? And what do you think every buyer says at that point? Of course, yeah. And now this avoids the person going, hey, just tell me what the price is, okay? Because you get into 1 minute, well, here's about our company and here's the products and services, and we were showing them a brochure. And they go, Nick, I just want to know what's the price. Okay, you don't want that. You don't want to talk about price too early in the meeting, or you're going to end up with a negative result because you didn't have a chance to tie value to that yet. So again, the best way to diffuse a bomb is, or best way to handle a bomb is diffuse it before it blows up. So I'm going to set the stage that we both, in the terms and conditions in the beginning of the meeting, agree that we're going to ask each other questions. Did you ever have a prospect you're meeting with that says, I'm not comfortable answering that question, or I don't want to share those numbers with you, or I don't want, whatever it is, they're defensive. They have not seen you as a value-added potential supplier to their business, and that's why they're saying that. Now, I'm asking them permission to ask them questions to learn more about their business, because I'm not sure this is right. Do you know how different that sounds from 99% of the salespeople that are out there that come in and say, you're going to love what I have to show you today. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread, whatever it is. That's the typical over-enthusiastic salesperson approach. One size fits all. You're going to love this. And the person's like, whoa, 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 you're selling me. As opposed to you coming in with a non-assumptive, consultative approach. I'm going to have to ask you some questions to learn more about your business, see if this is a right fit, okay? Again, we're face-to-face with the customer at this point. The customer always says, the prospective customer always says, yeah, that's fine. Okay, great. And I'll tell you, Bob, in meeting with a lot of companies just like yours, I know that we're not always a right fit for everybody. And sometimes what I've found, because I do this all the time, I do it full time, sometimes what I've found is that a person will at some point in the meeting realize that we're not right for each other, that they're not going to do business with my company. And instead of just giving me that honest no at the end of the meeting, they're afraid maybe that they're going to hurt my feelings, or they want to be polite. And so they're going to say something like, maybe I'll think it over and I'll get back to you. Okay? Would you do me a favor? If you realize at any point in this meeting that we're not right for each other, would you have any problem just telling me, hey, Nick, stop. It's a no. Here's why we're not going to do business together. And that way I can just get out of your hair, not waste your time, and not chase you and follow up with you later. Fair enough? And what do you think the prospective customer says? Every single time I do that, they say, I have no problem giving you an honest no. If it's a no, I'm going to tell you it's a no. Now, the reality is they weren't going to do that before. But when I've given them permission in the terms and conditions part of this meeting in the beginning to say no, I've given them that out. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I've been doing this all the time. I do it full time. I meet with people like you all the time. Would you just mind telling me no if it's a no? This has to be rehearsed. It has to be genuine. It has to be very empathetic. You're doing this out of care for them. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to sell you something that you don't want. So if you realize that's going to eliminate all those put-offs at the end of the meeting, because when I get to the end of the meeting, I'm going to remind him or her, the buyer, of the terms and conditions we set at the beginning of the meeting. Bob, at the beginning of this meeting, I told you that if you realize we weren't going to be right for each other, that rather than a maybe think it over, I'll get back to you, you'll just give me an honest no. If we're right for each other, I would expect you're going to say yes and that you want to move forward like so many of my other customers do. Where are we at right now? On a scale of 8 to 10, if you're unsure, on a scale 1 to 10, if you're not sure, where are you at right now? I'm an 8. Okay, what would it take to get you to a 10? Because sometimes I don't give all the information that I should give. I got excited about the product that we sell or the service or the value that we bring to our customers, and sometimes I skip over things, and maybe there were questions that you had that I interrupted you and so forth. Is there anything like that that I can tell you now that's going to help move you to a yes? And so many times, now look, all closing techniques are not foolproof all the time, right? It doesn't work 100% of the time. We're talking about the masses again. But so many times when I just do that at the end of the meeting, then they get to this comfort level where they say, yes, I'm ready to move forward. Now here's the thing. So when you do this as a salesperson, you realize that earning the trust of the prospect is so important if they're going to do business with you. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, okay? They don't know you yet because you just came in. You're assuming this is your first meeting with a prospective customer. But talk about liking and trusting you. When you sound different from every other salesperson that walks in the door and has a meeting with them, when you take that unassumptive approach, consultative approach, when you give them permission to say no and say that you're not going to hurt my feelings, in fact, I'd rather have an honest no than a maybe think it over or get back to you, you sound so different than everybody else. You earn much more trust on the part of the prospective buyer. And the rapport is built because they start liking you. They start saying, I like this guy, because why? Because he's genuine, because he's honest, he or she. The salesperson is being honest with them, laying the cards out on the table, setting the rules for the meeting before they ever get into it. Now look, that doesn't mean just because you do this at the beginning of the meeting that everybody's going to say yes. Of course not. And you're going to get some more honest no's, which is good too, like I said. But then there's a whole system, a selling system that step by step brings that prospective customer to a place of self-discovery, whether or not it makes sense for them to do business with you. And that's what our selling system's all about. But this closing technique, if you'll try this, practice it over and over again, and rehearse that, role play it with your coworkers. And the best way to practice is get out there and do it. Okay? You'll see so many more people that move to a yes, and you'll close people because so many people are just afraid to buy. They're just afraid to buy right now because they don't want to be manipulated, right? And they don't want to make a rash decision. But when you've done this right, you've set the grounds, or you put them in a position at the end of the meeting to now say, it's time to make a decision. Is it yes or no? And you'll get many more yeses this way as well. So again, part of the whole selling system, this part especially takes a lot of courage. It takes some skill and technique because you're going to rehearse that and so forth, but you just got to have the guts to be able to do it. So many salespeople are afraid to do these types of things because, number one, they don't want it to sound canned. It won't sound canned if you're genuine and so forth. And number two, just like I talked about the head trash before that the buyers have. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, right? We have this head trash that customer is king. Whatever the customer says is right. And if the customer says jump, we as a salesperson say how high, right? And unfortunately, that puts all the leverage over on the prospect side. And they never are going to respect you as a potential added value supplier to their company or as a partner with their company. So you can't play that game with them. So you have to be different. You have to be unassuming, consultative. Questions-based selling is going to help you earn the respect that you need in order to be able to do business together with this person. So again, it takes guts, but if you'll practice it, try it. The best way to practice it is do it out in the field, and you're going to fail. But if you'll do it over and over again, it will become comfortable, second nature. It will be very genuine. It'll be respected by your prospective customers that you're meeting with. So try that. Put in the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, your results from that. Otherwise, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email if you're on my website. You can see it. And let me know how that technique is working and how I might be able to help you make it work better. If you're a sales manager or president and owner of a company and you've got salespeople and you liked this, it's just one of a full part of a selling system that I teach to salespeople. I'd love to hear from you too and have the opportunity to explain what I believe we could do together. Thanks, and I look forward to hearing from you.